So, well, welcome everybody, and I appreciate this group coming. So, there might be one or two of you that have seen pieces of this, but I've added a lot of pieces to it as well. So, so thanks for coming. But what I want to talk to you first about this morning, actually this afternoon, is why real estate agents fail. Now, everybody wants to talk about how great it is, what a great business we have, how much money you can make, and all of that. And that is all good, and it is all true. The fact of the matter is, almost 70% of the people that get a real estate license today will not be in the business 3 years from now. So why is that? How is it possible to have a 70% dropout rate?
Because it's hard.
Because it's hard, yes. It is hard, but there are things that the successful people do that the unsuccessful people don't. And if you will be focused on what those things are, then half the battle is just avoiding what the people shouldn't be doing. So over the years, I've found a pretty effective way to demonstrate this to you, which some people, I used to label this as a time management class, but it really is a better way to look at why agents fail in the real estate business, and we're going to demonstrate that to you here in just a minute. So, but if you look at this, why agents fail, and then this ABC time. So I want you to think every day when you get up, you could have a blank ABC sheet, for example, and fill that thing out, and I've got them if you want them and if you'll use them. But I want you to think about the different kinds of time. And the different kinds of time, depending on where you're going to spend your time, is going to relate directly to whether or not you're successful in the business. So, for our illustration purposes here, if you are, or for definition here, your A time, it's simple. It's face-to-face with a buyer that can buy or a seller that can sell. Nothing else. It's face-to-face, okay? So that's when you know you're in A time. Now, B time is looking for A time, if you'll think of it that way, but it's prospecting. It's your business development, your lead generation, whatever you want to call it. But this is looking for A time. So your prospecting, business development, lead generation, this could be your calls. This could be talking to for sale by owners, to expired listings, but mainly, well, I shouldn't say mainly, but making your calls into your database. Those are strong B time activities. And then for simplicity's sake, C time is simply everything else. Okay, so you are either in A time, which means you have a physical appointment with somebody and you're face-to-face. If you don't, you should be prospecting and looking for that face-to-face appointment. And then you'll have some time every day that's going to be in the C time, which is everything else. Now, I had these many times. We've done this this particular coaching session, and I've got this list from agents just like yourselves over the years, but I didn't want to take time on a video to develop the list, so this is what they came up with. So, definitions again. What's A time?
Face-to-face.
Face-to-face. What's B time?
Prospecting.
Prospecting, business development, generating leads, and C time is everything else. So let's go through this and define A, B, or C on these. So if you're doing a listing presentation, is that an A, B, or C?
A.
Absolutely. That's an A time activity. If you're on your Facebook, A, B, or C?
C.
It's a C. Okay? You're not face-to-face. Now, could we make the argument that you're prospecting and so forth? Perhaps, but most Facebook activities aren't generating that kind of business. Okay, let's say, so you've got a listing presentation tomorrow and you're doing comps here in the office or at home, A, B, or C?
B for A.
Nope. Well, it's C because you're not face-to-face and you're not really prospecting. You're doing things that, now, I didn't say C time's not important. There's some activities here that you'll see are important, but they're just not A or B. Now, what if you're meeting an appraisal? You have something under contract, you're meeting an appraisal, A, B, or C?
C.
I'd say A, B, and C. Because I'd be selling that.
You're not face-to-face with a customer, and you're not prospecting. So it's a C time activity. Okay?
You still could prospect.
You could, but from my experience, most people don't. So now, showing property, A, B, or C? Absolutely, that's an A time activity. When you're calling clients, and I'm assuming this is calling into your database, that kind of thing, A, B, or C? Bingo. Door knocking, A, B, or C? That's a B, right. I assume this means putting up signs, so A, B, or C? It's a C. Putting up, now, this could be putting up your open house signs, this could be putting, you took a listing and you're putting a sign out, but, okay, moving on, when you're talking to your loan officers.
C.
Sorry. No, it's a C. Here's why. You're not face-to-face with a customer. Now, maybe if you're in a face-to-face meeting with a customer, then that could be an A time, but most of the time, the loan people are walking through the office and they're taking up your time, telling you about programs, all well and good, but it's a C time activity. Doing your paperwork, A, B, or C? Yeah, so all your dot loop time, contract writing, all that kind of thing. How about preparing postcards? C. Doing your CMA, that's a little bit like the comps up above, that's a C. Prospecting is a B, of course. Working on your database.
C. B.
Nope.
A. C.
No.
No, not A.
You're not face-to-face with a customer, and it's not really prospecting. It's kind of it is a C-time activity. Now again, you're going to have a lot of classes with us where we talk about database and how important it is and so forth, but while you're working in that database, you're not prospecting for an individual customer and you're not face-to-face, so it's a C. Now here we are, for example, in a training program, A, B, or C?
C.
It's a C. I can just see the next time I'm doing a class, somebody's, oh no, that's C time, I'm not coming. Wrong answer. Now, doing your emails, returning emails, whatever.
C.
It's a C. Open houses.
B.
I agree. It's a B time activity. Now, it could turn into an A time activity. If somebody comes in, oh my God, I love this place, I want to buy it, and that kind of thing, it could turn into an A. But most of the time, it's a B time activity. Doing surveys, C time. Doing counteroffers, that's an A time activity. Face-to-face is A, obviously. Doing your farming. I agree, it's a B. Instagram, that's a C time. Doing your termite inspection, a C. Buyers that buy, I'm going to call that an A because assuming you're with a buyer. With people in a divorce situation, now, if you're face-to-face with them, one of them or both of them, it's an A time. Now for example, we have Jennifer Culler in this office that her real estate practice revolves around divorcing couples. So in her case, that could very well be a strong B time activity. So I'm going to make it a B, but if you're just talking to people and it's not specific about getting their house on the market, probably not. Newspaper follow-up is a C. When you're meeting your inspections, that's a C time activity. Looking for A time, that is B time. Contract follow-up is C. Now, in your contracts, your dot loop, you have so many, 40, 50 different things that have to get done. It's not A time because you're not face-to-face and you're not prospecting. But it's very important. So I'll say it again. We're not saying some C time activities aren't important, because if you ignore your contracts, next thing you know, your deal's going to fall out. So you can't be doing that. Talking to lenders. Excuse me, that's a C time activity. When you're in the MLS, it's a C. Could be an A if you're face-to-face with your customer and you're bringing up on your laptop, but most of the time you're doing that on your own. Writing an offer, A time, of course. If you're making brochures, A, B, or C. Yeah. Practicing your scripts is C time. Putting posts on Facebook is a C time activity. Putting the lockbox out, C. Talking to attorneys, probably a C. Cold calling is a B. Dealing with referrals could be an A time activity. Making your listing flyers is a C. Dealing with repairs is a C. For sale by owners, a B. Expired's a B. Doing your advertising. Now, when I say doing I'm talking about when you're preparing your ads, whether it's a Facebook post or whatever, it's a C time activity. Hopefully it'll turn into a A or B. Sellers that can sell, let's just take that one off for the moment. Talking to your home warranty people, a C. Talking to your title people, a C. Other social media, still C. Inputting listings is a C, very important. If you're talking to absentee owners, that's a B. Lunch, A, B, or C.
Well, you could have
It
one.
really could be. If Krista's having lunch with a customer, that's very well possibly an A time activity. Or if it's maybe somebody she's catching up with, it might be a B time activity. Who do most agents have lunch with? Think about it. Say it again. I think
Each other.
agents have lunch with each other.
I just had an A. I went next door and had coffee
Beautiful.
with a buyer.
But I know, Jordan, is going to break your heart, but Denise is not going to buy a house from you. Now, I'm not saying, because it's great to have that peer-to-peer relationship, but just when you're having lunch, just know it's a C time activity. Don't kid yourself. Whoa, I had lunch with Jordan today, and that, it's an A or a B. No, it's lunch. Continuing education is C. Staging property is probably a C time activity because you've already got the listing. Cleaning the properties is a C time. Coaching, I'm going to say a B because you're trying to learn how to do it better. So, can you count the A's and Tiara the B's, Denise the C's? Can you see okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, 11 B's.
11 B's?
I think I have 8 A's. Maybe it's 32.
32 C's. Close enough. So, what does this tell you?
Most of your time in C.
Most agents spend most of their time in C time activities. And so let's come back to why agents fail. Let me, 8, 11, 32. This was, we had 8, 11, and 32. I cannot give you a more vivid demonstration of why agents go broke. They spend all their time here. Now, here's the thing. So let's take Jack, for example. Maybe Jack comes in first thing in the morning. Maybe there's a sales meeting, which we didn't have up there, but a C-time activity. Maybe he's here for that sales meeting. Maybe he goes and previews property after the sales meeting, another C-time activity. Has lunch with a couple of you, and in the afternoon, maybe he's doing some comps and doing maybe previews another couple houses or whatever. He can go home at 5 or 6 o'clock, any of you can, exhausted from what has been a very full day. But where's he at in A's and B's? nothing, okay? So you have too many days like that, and next thing you know, if you have a spouse, he or she's going to wonder when you're going to get a real job, okay? And that's just the way it works. So remember, face-to-face with a buyer that can buy or a seller that can sell, there's 8 of those activities on our list. B-time, where you're looking for business, and 32, everything else. I would say of those 32, 5 or 6 of them are really important. So agents, why do they spend so much time? Think about your real world and what you've been doing, let's say the last week. Why do agents spend so much time in C time?
Well, the A time is very hard to achieve or get to. If you could get to A time much easier, obviously you'd spend a lot more time there.
Yes.
It's a lot harder to attain the A time.
It is. So any other observations?
Well, some of the prospecting things are hard just because, like door knocking, for example. Walk on these days, if you're lucky enough for people to open the door.
Right.
But because people are reluctant to do that these days, but still, you got to do a lot of door knocking. I mean, I've heard people saying when they started, they knocked on 10 or 20 doors every single day.
Yeah.
To get.
It is a way. Now, I don't know for, let's say, Jordan, for example, that might be a better activity for him than you, Denise, because he doesn't have a big database, okay? In your case, you've got a really solid database, hundreds and hundreds of people that you know. So for you to spend your time knocking on doors is not the highest and best use of your time. For Jordan, when he doesn't have that database, then he's going to have to spend his time, could be knocking on doors, for sale by owners, expireds, those kinds of activities that will generate business. So if there's a secret to know about all this, here is the power that you have. Over time, 3 hours here will equal 1 hour here. The control you have in your business is B time. You can't, so if Tiara wakes up this morning and she doesn't have an appointment today, it's going to be hard for her to get one today because it just doesn't happen that quick usually. But what she can do is do her prospecting, and 3 solid hours there will lead to an hour here. It's the lever. If you, who was it, in Archimedes or somebody in ancient times said, give me a big enough lever and I could move the world. The leverage you have in real estate is right here in your B time. If you will spend a couple hours a day here, there is no way you're going to fail in this business. But what happens is agents get trapped in all this other stuff that is, it's just not as important, okay? So the 3 hours, 1 hour, so let me get, the best way I heard about this is, I'm a Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City Chiefs fan, for example. So they pay this guy, I think it's, I don't know, $100 million over 8 or 10 years. It's a monster number. How long is a football game?
4 hours.
How long?
4 hours?
Yeah, probably 3 hours unless it goes to overtime on TV, okay? How long is it from the time the ball is snapped to the time the play is called dead? I didn't know this till I heard this, so.
30 seconds to a minute.
But through the course of the game. So you're probably, yes, you're exactly right.
Play-by-play is 30 seconds.
Play-by-play, it winds up about 11 minutes. So Patrick Mahomes is getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars for 11 minutes a game. Okay? So real estate agents are in the same position. It seems like, your whole day or 3 hours or whatever the time is, if you're doing the right things, you can get paid enormous amounts of money. But if you're not doing the right things, then it's zero or close to zero, and you do that for enough days in a row, you're going to be out of the business. It's an expensive business to be in. You've got, I don't have to tell you, your board dues and MLS dues and E&O insurance and on and on and on. You've got all these costs going on whether you sell a house or not. So that's where it becomes critical that you spend your time here. I have a gal in our Lawrenceburg office. She lost her husband in December. And I just love this lady, but I knew I had to work with her to help get her mind into a different place and get away from the sadness and everything else. So we started working with her in early January, so we had her start calling. She's got a good-sized database, so she called 5 people a day in her database for the month of January. 5 people a day. That's all she had to do. And her whole thing was, I'm doing my business plan for 2024, and I'm just curious, is there anything you might need help with over the next 3 or 4 months? She listed 3 houses that month. Now, she went for, I think she said 8 or 10 days and didn't get anything. But then she got a couple listings, and that went another few weeks, and she got another one. So this is where, if you have a database, you just have to believe that it's going to work. Have a reason to call, and that you're working on your database, or there's other scripts that I can give you, but that's a very timely one. And you could always be saying, I'm working on my second quarter plan or third quarter or whatever, and next thing you know, most people are going to say no. They can't think of anything, but weeks later, you're going to get a call. Hey, by the way, my neighbor's son's looking to buy a house, and I mentioned that you might be able to help him. So here's their number. You'll just get those kinds of calls. But for an agent that spent all his time or her time in C time, wasn't making those calls, they're never going to get that call. They just don't have. They haven't. I had it explained to me once like a farmer. A farmer has to plant in the spring, weed in the summer, and then he harvests in the fall. And so to use that analogy or metaphor, if you're not planting, you're not going to harvest. And so for Jordan, he's got to have a plan where he's somehow spending the time here so that he can harvest here. And the money in this business is big enough that it's well worth it. And so my recommendation is and most of the big coaches all recommend that you do these calls in the morning. You're calling your database in the morning from 9 to 10, 9 to 11, whatever. And if you're going to make 3, 4, 5 calls, you decide what you're going to do, but those are calls you talk to people. It's not Jordan leaving 3 messages because people didn't pick up. That's not a call. It's when you have a conversation. That's a call. And so now, that's some of the coaches. I've got another coach that I work with, John Cheplak, that says, Rich, I don't care when they make their calls. I don't care if it's 6 to 8. It doesn't matter. They just need to make the calls. And he's one of the top coaches in America. So I tend to agree with him. I think if you have a choice and you can make them in the morning before your day starts getting away from you, that's probably smartest. But we have agents over the years and even in our company today that might do it from 3 to 5. Once they get home their kids home from school, they lock themselves in a bedroom or their home office or whatever and get the calls made. So the issue is getting them done. And the reality is, when I said at the outset, 70% of the agents in this business wind up out of the business within 3 years. And it's the ones that will make the calls and do the work are going to have fabulous careers. Many of you, we talked in recent weeks about how 20% of the people in this business do 80% of the production. Now that's in any sales. I don't care if you're selling vacuum cleaners or if you're selling cars, if you're selling Boeing jetliners. 20% of the people do 80% of the business. That's the good news. The bad news is that leaves only 20% of the business left, the scraps, for 80% of the people. So the 80% that don't have good systems and don't have good processes or discipline, those are the ones that are fighting over scraps, and it's hard to make that transition into the 20% that's doing 80% of the business. So, questions? I don't want to just preach, but what's observations, questions, any thoughts?
Well, I'm that person, like I just hit my 3-year mark, and that's why I moved over here, because I was doing lots of C. I felt like I was, and then part of it is my personality. Some people are just great about just jumping in and we'll figure it out as we go, and I'm one of those people that wants to make sure it's all right and it's all perfect and I'm not going to mess up. And so then I read and I study and I can do all of that, but then the doing part of it is really hard for me. And plus I felt like I was kind of isolated, and it was really hard to keep myself motivated. So I was to the point where I was like, I'm either going to sink or swim here. It's, because...
Thank you. I was very similar to that. My very first broker said, Rich, there's a time to stop learning and start earning. And, I've just never forgot that. And it's worth sharing this story, 2 stories about Mr. Russell Realty Company in Cleveland, Ohio. He'd be coming around, and I'd only been there a few weeks, and I'm sitting at my desk and getting my Pendaflex folders all fixed up and everything, and he said, Rich, what are you doing? I said, well, Russ, I'm getting organized. And he says, Rich, what are you organizing? You ain't got no clients. What are you organizing? You ain't got no clients. And that's just how he talked. He was out of the hills of West Virginia, 25 years in the Coast Guard, but a phenomenal man. It changed my life. But Rich, what are you doing? You ain't got no customers. What are you organizing? So a couple weeks later, you get the feeling after a while, you don't want to be sitting around doing nothing. When Mr. Russell's walking through the office, he comes through and says, hey, Rich, what are you doing today? And he said, shouldn't you be out there talking to people? And I said, Russ, I'm not done with the training program yet, so I don't know anything. He said, Rich, you ain't got no customers. You don't need to know anything. So his point that made me think of what Denise is saying, and it's so honest what she's saying, is you got to get out there and start talking to people, and then you're going to figure out, okay, I don't know the answer to that. Just tell them, I don't know, but I'll find out. I'll get back to you. No harm, no foul. But if some people become paralyzed because they just will not do it till they're comfortable, and they're not going to be comfortable until they do it. So it's very, very important. One last Mr. Russell story. A couple of you might have heard this. He was very much, this is back a long time ago, but very much into door knocking. And so he drops me, it's in the middle of the winter. I'll never forget his white Lincoln against the white snow and everything.
In Cleveland. In
Cleveland, that's right. And so,
in Cleveland.
I
feel his pain.
He would drop me and he'd follow me down in his car. And so, knock on the first place, nobody home. I knocked on 4 or 5 places, nobody home. This is unheard of at that time in Cleveland because the wives were almost always home. It was a factory town. People either worked at the steel mill, the rubber plants, or the car factories. And so it was just unusual that people wouldn't be home. And so the 5th or 6th house I'm knocking on, I didn't know. He got out of his car and come up behind me. He said, Rich, it works better if you don't knock on the brick. I was scared to death to talk to somebody. I didn't know what am I supposed to say or whatever. So I'm knocking on the brick, and I got busted. But then he knocks on the door and the people come and he has a nice conversation. We do it 2 or 3 more times, and after that I got it, and it set me free. But the point is, you've got to get out there and do it. If you don't, this is a miserable business. Get out there. And somebody the other day, we were talking, I think in my Shelbyville office, and said, well, I failed at that. And the issue is, are you failing forward? You can fail forward and still make mistakes, and don't worry about it. Just get up. A great metaphor I've heard about this is when you have a baby and the baby starts learning to walk, and if he's not walking by 7 months, are you going to give up? No, it's 8 months, 9 months, and I don't remember what the exact months are, but the baby's going to fall down, he's going to get back up, and you keep supporting him and helping him or her, and it's the same here. You're falling down like that baby, but you just can't give up. You just got to keep at it and keep doing it. So that is the message about why agents don't make it in this business. Most everybody, if you've gotten your license, and certainly if you were hired at our company, we believe you have the capacity to do this. Now, there's one of the biggest reasons some agents fail is they shouldn't have gotten the business to begin with. Okay, well, we're past that, because we wouldn't have hired you if we thought you had no hope. So now it becomes a matter of, are you willing to do the work? And what is the work? Right here. B time. If you'll spend your time in B time activities, a couple hours a day, you will not be denied.